What had so much hype about it, but was actually terrible? Google Glass got a lot of hype, but then it was gone. Back when Google Glass had beta testers, I met a guy at a conference that was a tester. It seemed kind of cool at first, but I found myself being weirded out with every conversation we had. Imagine knowing someone who is always holding their phone up as if they're constantly recording everything you do. Are you going to feel comfortable talking to that person, or are you going to be wondering if and why they're recording everything and what they're going to do with those videos? That's the feeling that Google Glass gave me from the other end, and I feel like Google really didn't understand how weird it was to be on the outside looking in. That's why restaurants were banning them. I feel like hoverboards were seriously misnamed. I expected Back to the Future, not Back to the Hospital with bone fractures. TED. Back in the early 2000s, billboards went up all over Denver saying TED is coming, are you ready for TED? And a whole bunch of other cryptic TED stuff. Nobody knew who or what TED was. It escalated to the point everyone was talking about TED. Turns out TED was an airline. It lasted like a month. And failed. Everyone is saying Gabo this, and Gabo that. Gabo hashtag Gabo. Geraldo Rivera opening Al Capone's safe. I watched it live. And laughed my ass off. He dug himself such an epic hole with all of the desperate hype leading up to the big reveal. I remember watching that. I remember the look of total defeat and humiliation when he just mumbled "There's nothing here. I'm sorry," walked off screen, and reportedly went straight to a bar and got blackout drunk. I remember watching this with my dad. It was a long time ago, but I remember my dad laughing and laughing. I felt awful for Geraldo at the time. Not anymore though. Quibi. I saw ads and promotions for it constantly for months leading up to its release, and they had some pretty famous celebrities in the shows. Then it disappeared after like a month of its release. The company I worked for at the time offered a choice: free Netflix or free Quibi. After looking at thousands of accounts, I saw one that had chosen Quibi over Netflix. And that person probably already had Netflix. It was the owner's son, Joseph Quibi. Of the Connecticut Quibus? The very same. Adulthood. It like a refund. Google+. I met my husband on Google+, which is pretty embarrassing to explain to people. Fire Festival. BBC.com. 2020. Remember that meme showing how all the holidays were on weekends? At least Cinco de Mayo was on Taco Tuesday, and the whole entire month of April was 420 instead of just a day. Halloween was on a full moon as well, and on a Saturday. No Man's Sky at launch. Granted, it got a lot better afterwards. The redemption arc for No Man's Sky is surreal. Better plot than most movies. I love how the game has evolved for me personally. At first I was doing the missions and got pretty bored with it. But then they added the ability to make your own base. So then it became a base building game. Then I found out about the Galactic Hub, where players claimed a certain selection of planets with a home base. I made it my mission to find it. It took an incredible amount of time and became this kind of adventure puzzle game where I was looking up stuff on the internet about how to find certain black holes so I could warp closer to the hub. Eventually I made it, and found a shit ton of planets with bases, some active but a lot of them dead. By then, the game had the ability to harvest valuable minerals indefinitely with solar energy. So I hopped around from one planet to the next, scrounging empty bases looking for a big payday. The game became like this treasure hunting space scavenger game. It's been a fantastic journey. You're forgetting the fact you can have a trade fleet. I roleplay as a rogue trader in No Man's Sky. I've played it since release and damn, it's so good now. On further notice it appears that I've sold several people on the game. Hello games, hire me PLS. My skills are crippling arrogance and talking too much. I played 80 hours back at launch and named a bunch of planets and systems. Imperial planet or system with various numbers. So there are a few hundred systems out there claimed for the Imperium of Man. Coney 2012. Proof that it does take a little more than awareness to solve the world's problems. The only thing I remember about Kony 2012 was that the guy who started the movement had a mental breakdown and stripped down naked in public. 2020. Olestra was a fat substitute that had no calories. Chips would have no fat content and less calories. It was a craze until they realized it gave everyone the shits. Like for some people a few handful were enough for explosive zero warning uncontainable shits. Anthem. The flight mechanics and Iron Man-ish badass feeling of huge explosions and gameplay is so damn cool to have just let it rot in a gutter. What a waste, such potential. I know someone who is a voice actor who voiced a character in Anthem. They pretty much said that it was great to be in the booth recording the lines. The director was very encouraging and was saying how great the performance was and how they're going to get some great animation for the character. Once the game was out, my friend looked up their character on YouTube to find their performance was paired with some generic looped animation that didn't really match the character at all. They were quite disappointed. I assume there were some budget cuts mid-production. Not only were there budget cuts, there were major changes going on throughout the entire development process, including the name and the entire story of the game. It was originally supposed to be called Beyond, but shortly before they announced it there were some copyright issues, I think. Most of the people working on the game still had no idea why it was even being called Anthem all of a sudden, and they were just told to work with it. It also wasn't originally meant to be a looter shooter either, which is pretty clearly evident when you look at just how ridiculously bad the entire loot system was. They were definitely rushed into all kinds of stuff that just kept changing too fast for them to deal with. SpongeBob Sweet Victory music but got switched to Travis Scott sicko mode in the Super Bowl. That one hockey rink's got you covered. The Dallas Stars. Hell yeah. I'm a huge Stars fan, and the first time I saw them throw Sweet Victory, edited to make everyone appear to be wearing green, on the Jumbotron, I lost it. I take the train into Dallas along with a lot of other fans, and you can always hear someone singing that on the train home after a win. Also, their entire Media Jumbotron team are some of the best in any major sport. Segways. Not necessarily terrible, but incredible, over-the-top hype. Interestingly, those Segways paved the way for a host of other personal electric vehicles. Especially self-balancing ones. That one pizza party specifically in our elementary school. Like 8 boxes of pizza, and they limit us to 2 slices each. But each slice was actually one regular slice cut in half. And no seconds. Even though Therese 4 untouched boxes. Yeah, duck that. I always laugh at work pizza parties, because everyone stands there with their polite 2 slices. We all know at home we polish off half a pie with no regrets. As someone on Twitter recently said, a serving size of pizza is until you're ashamed. Some years back, there was some asshole that hyped up a huge live event of him being eaten by a snake in a digestion-proof suit. I thought it was incredibly stupid, but kept hearing about from coworkers. Day after the event, I hear he bitched out as it was working on swallowing him. So they had to kill the snake to save his dumb ass. Edit, it was eaten alive, a Discovery Channel special. The guy was Paul Rosalie, and supposedly the snake did not get killed. He had to make the snake defend itself to even attack him, as it wasn't interested in him when he acted like prey. I remember that shit. So far this is the only one of these hype things I actually paid attention to. Mini CDS. Rating Area 51. The Naruto runner made it all just stupid funny. Floyd Mayweather vs. Logan Paul. Glad I didn't pay for it. I didn't even know this at hype. I thought it was an April Fool's joke and then just a weird publicity stunt. Harry Potter and the Cursed Child. Awful, and I don't actually believe it's part of HP. The Power Glove. If you weren't there at the time, you can't imagine how awesome NES kids thought that this thing was going to be. Then you finally played something with one, and tried to convince yourself that it was indeed awesome before slowly, oh so slowly, accepting that it was lame as hell. Then having to memorize the codes you needed to type in on the glove, otherwise it wouldn't work, so might have realized it didn't work regardless, so you just yank it off and use the pad on the glove because, ironically, it was better than your existing controller which had the sticky fire button. Lucky I never paid for the damn thing, picked it up at a garage sale for $15 a year after it came out. I could see why it was found at a garage sale. I ended up taking it apart to see why it sucked but broke it and threw it out. Wish I'd have kept it. They go for decent cash on eBay these days.